Hi, everybody. Goddess of Radical Self-Love. We are working on the coloring cleanse for chapter 11. Sorry, my seat is all weird because I have a seat. I have a new seat. See? Yeah? I'm like, my area is changing. I actually have a chair now, not just my little booster seat that I do my meditations on. This is compliments, this beautiful tea compliments of the Conscious Queen, my daughter. Um, so let's get started. Move you guys off to the side. Not fully. Yes, all my shedding snakes out there. Sorry, I have all these issues tonight, I guess. I'm trying to fit a lot in one night because I have plans supposedly for tomorrow, but we'll see if that works out or not because, my work is always more important. So I have a long list and I'm still trying to find a job. Sorry, I have to turn this. I hit it last night when I was sleeping and I hurt it really bad. So anyway, yes. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Don't worry about it, I guess. I'm not, hopefully you're not. So, in memory of J.F. My first high school dance, fall of freshman year at age 15. So when I started doing this, some of the ages got kind of weird. I know for sure I'm 15 here because I got my license in between my freshman and sophomore year. But anyway, I guess it's not that important, right? I mean, Lonnie's life is not my life, so I can't remember exact dates maybe perfectly, but I remember the situations. That's what's important, the content, right? Yeah. So my first high school dance, fall of my freshman year at age 15, I had received a few invitations from different boys in my grade and the one above mine. Now, remember I wrote this 10 years ago, so a little over. I may not have said things exactly the same as I would have said them today, but I mean, it's the truth. I just might not have said it exactly the same, some of the stuff, but this was one of the only times throughout my high school experience I didn't have a boyfriend, and it really was because I had moved to Amory and moved back to St. Croix, so yeah, I didn't have a boyfriend because I just moved back. I didn't have time to get one yet. It's ridiculous, I know. As I mentioned previously, I had many friends, yet I never considered myself part of the so-called clique. And I considered them my friends. They might not have considered me their friend, so whatever. There were of course groups of kids that chose to spend the majority of their time with the same individuals with like interests. I was very different though. Being unsure of who I really was enabled me to find interests I had in common with everyone, not just a particular group of people. I was friends with the jocks, artists, nerds, outlaws, and outcasts. And I think I'm just saying those terminologies because that was me. So I'm not identifying people as those specifically only. I saw a part of me in all of them. I saw people for who they really were. I saw their light. And that's one of the things about me, I guess, at times that kind of got me into trouble is I would always see past certain things where it could have warned me about somebody I was around not maybe being safe because I looked past certain qualities or attributes that would have warned me and just saw their light. I've learned to be more discerning finally. Although I was no princess, if I disagreed with you, you would know it. If I disagreed with the teacher, they would know it. I had a loose tongue and no one was safe. Okay, so I do want to just say, like, I think it's very good that if I disagreed with somebody, they would know it. However, a lot of times it wouldn't be like right away I would disagree. Things would boil to the surface, and like instead of slowly and quietly disagreeing, it would fester into something else and I would disagree loudly or at times embarrass people because of their points of view, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't always do it that way, but I would say a majority of the time there could have been better ways to handle situations, that's for sure. Now I try to talk about it when things come up and not as I disagree, but can you tell me more about that point of view? Can you tell me more about where you're coming from so I can understand you better? Can you explain that point of view so you can enlighten me with your knowledge? It doesn't mean that it always works out in my favor, but I think it's a much better technique, that's for sure. All of those moments aside, for the most part, I got along with everyone. Because of my universal judgment and who I considered a friend, I got a lot of invitations from admirers shoved into my locker. I know some of them were more deserving than others, but the chemistry still had to be there. And I mean, I am still friends with a lot of people, I guess, who maybe there were some who were quieter, maybe there were some that were more like obnoxious at times, but I mean, I was friends with them all, so at least in my mind, I was friends with them all, and I think people felt safe with me, that they could come to me and talk to me. Even now, some of them that were kind of treated really poorly, I guess, appreciate the fact that I was somebody they considered a friend. Now, the more popular ones today, maybe not so much, but that's okay. I mean, they still want to, celebrate their glory days in high school and be rude. That's up to them. I have nothing to do with that. That's their own insecurities coming out, and it has nothing to do with me, which I actually had to remind myself of the last reunion I went to. Not sure I will be making any more of those, but I don't know, maybe some of those less popular kids, and I should have our own reunion where everybody feels comfortable and confident without the threat of the Mean Girl Squad. I can't believe there's still a Mean Girl Squad when we're in our 40s, but you know, whatever. When some of my football friends encouraged a young man to go and talk to me, I made a huge mistake. You guys know I fix this every time I read it, so I'm still embarrassed today to talk about it. It's just the way in which I handled the situation. It's not really me. You guys know I'm working on the Mr. MECA, right, coloring cleanse we're doing. Just, I don't know if I even said that, but I don't think I did. I made a huge mistake. I'm still embarrassed today to talk about it. It's just the way in which I handled the situation is not really me. I don't even like talking about it now because it's just so mean. And I really love him. It was our lunch period and we were all hanging out by our lockers, directly positioned in the middle of the school. That area, the commons area, was the only area of the school built with full access to windows and skylights, as the school was built within an earth mound. I think it was like one of those saving energy type things. As the sun was shining down and I was reading my love letters of sorts, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I thought it was one of my girlfriends I could brag to about how popular I had become. You know, like going from the one school to the other and being scared. It kind of felt good to get some attention, I suppose. My head was a little larger than life that particular day. We all have our ego moments. The tapping was actually from a boy I didn't know very well. He was around the same height as myself and a little on the chubby side. Although back then I was maybe 100 pounds, I was so scared to gain weight that I did 500 sit-ups and 500 push-ups a day and bench 165 pounds. Yeah, I was crazy about it was all that, the mother with her weight issues, and, it got into my head that that was what was important, at least for me. My whole life, I've had troubles with accepting myself at certain weights, and I'm never thin enough, so I've been working really hard on the acceptance part, feeling pretty good. Stress brings it back out. So I try to make sure my self-care is always on point, relaxing, 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 ease. That's the key that I think I've found recently, is just the ease. Instead of excitement or a high of super joy or super happiness, just being at ease, more like no matter what's going on, just the ease. Needless to say, I thought somebody's body was everything. The boy also had one lazy eye. And, if you look at my pictures, so do I, so whatever. It always is there. But in some way, in the back of my mind, he did have a certain air about him with his blonde curly locks and sweet smile. He also was a center in football, so he couldn't have been completely lazy. I wouldn't have known except for he was wearing his football jersey. He introduced himself as JF and explained how his friends had told him a lot of great things about me. Then he proceeded to ask me to the homecoming dance. In a moment's notice, I transformed into the biggest bitch of all time, responding with laughter. I hate reading this part. JF had no clue as to the laughter, but he was about to. With no holding back, in front of rows of lockers filled with mutual peers, I unloaded. JF, that's your name? Well, JF, I don't even know you. I have no clue as to why anyone who knows me would tell you anything good or bad about me. There's no way in hell I would ever, laughter, even consider, more laughter, going with you anywhere. Yes, I know, crushing. It was wrong. I slammed the door and walked away once again, laughing. And you have to understand that this guy I am talking about was like, which I didn't know at that time, he was like the sweetest guy I had ever met in my entire life. But just like I said, he was about to, no, I was about to learn who he was. And yeah, luckily for me, he didn't judge me based on that first encounter with him. So we always have to keep in mind that good or bad, we cannot judge people based on the way they look or their first responses. And I mean, at least he had the courage to actually come and ask me and talk to me, which throughout my adult life has not been the case. Which is funny because most guys I talk to are surprised to hear that. That I have issues meeting men because they think people just come up to me all the time, which they don't. So, and I'm not about to go on a dating site. So, I mean, I like to meet people naturally in my own environments because I want to know that they have like interest. I don't want somebody to just see a post that I make and think that they can tell me anything I want to hear, although I guess it's not like I have had the best of luck my way. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Who knows, but I don't know. This is maybe a year of trying new things, but I'm trying a new thing right now. It's called the coloring cleanse. We'll see how everything goes. I'm not trying to do too many things at once and just let life bring me whatever it has in store for me at this point, because I'm in no hurry for anything, except for some funding would be good for MECA. And now to get a job. So those are my main focuses. My family, my children, MECA, job. So my choice was MM, a boy I had known since the 4th grade. He was slightly shy, was also in sports, and incredibly adorable. Later at my 10-year reunion, I ran into him and learned of his short-term career as a model in New York. He was really hot. Or is, seriously. And he is really sweet too, but a bit shy. Later at my 10, for someone so shy would have never put the two together. We made plans with about 4 or 5 different couples, and somehow JF got added to the mix. I didn't even come to learn this until I showed up at one of my friends' homes, JP, which also was the younger brother of JP, my gymnastics coach's husband from the last chapter. Couple. We waited and waited, but no MM. I'm just going to put that in here really quick. Sorry. We waited and waited, but no MM. I called him and he said he would have to meet us later at the high school that was 3 hours away. We had already planned on grabbing a bite to eat and took off to Pizza Hut, the boys' choice, of course. It was 45 minutes away. JF and I ended up sitting next to one another in the car. I apologized to him over and over. He reassured me he was fine. As we were mini road tripping, I got to know him a bit and realized this kid was actually really amazing. He was off the charts sweet and funny, which is pretty much the key to my heart. For all the times in my life I spent crying, laughter has always been my favorite cure-all. We kept it completely innocent and friendly, just buddies hanging out. When we finally got to the dance, MM was already inside. Without me realizing, JF paid for me to get in. I met up with MM and was feeling like I was in the midst of the most uncomfortable situation. I had 2 dates. MM was pretty much boring me to death. I longed for the laughter I had just moments ago. Not only was I remembering the chemistry JF and I had just been enjoying, but so were all of our male friends. Each one of them kept coming up and asking me to at least dance once with JF since he did pay for me to get in and all. MM hadn't even asked me to dance once, which was fine with me since I had never been one for couples dancing anyway. This is my dance space and this is yours. That's how I rolled. And not on the dance floor with everyone else crowding me either. I just would make my own little dance space wherever I'm standing. MM eventually got word of what was going on, that JF had paid for me to get in and wanted to dance with me at least once. I guess I should probably say too that is actually still how I am. I just don't like dancing with everybody else. It's so annoying when people run into you and it's like, I don't want people touching me. I don't know why. It's like, why can't we just dance wherever we are all the time? Shopping, driving, sitting at your desk working. I just like to dance. It's fun. And not line dancing either. Like, get your own dance skills, moves. It's more fun. Create something yourself. I don't know. I'm strange that way, I guess. I think because I was just always in my room when I was a kid. Like, whenever I was in my room, I should say, I wasn't always in my room. I was normally outside. But whenever I was in my room, like in the winter and stuff, that's what I would do. Just dance, listen to music and dance. It was fun. And I still like it a lot. It's like a stress reliever, you know? It's self-care. It's happy self-care. It's really hard for me not even to start singing and dancing right now since the music is playing. He wasn't mad at all and actually joined in with the crowd insisting just one dance should be JF's. Finally, with much encouragement, I went to him on a slow song, grabbed his hand, and he followed. The moment we embraced and stared into each other's eyes, we broke out in laughter once again. That was my last dance of the night. My curfew was 11 p.m. and BH was outside waiting for me. It must have been seeing JP, sorry, another fix. Seeing JP's younger brother that sent me back once again towards another downward spiral of despair. Just being in JP's childhood home with all his photos plastered everywhere made me revisit what I had been trying to repress. The memory of, well, a disgusting and humiliating experience. It was also nearing the year-end anniversary of D-Day, December 5th, the day I had been removed from my parents' home. Once again, I had resumed cutting. and since it was winter and gymnastics season was over, I was in no danger of being caught. It's funny how, like, well, I guess I didn't really have, I don't know, when I'm like still in a happy place, I'm not, you know, it's interesting. I began having night terrors, which kept me from getting a full night's rest. I had always had nightmares, part of the reason my sister sleeping in my bed was comforting, but nothing is in such vivid form, nothing so intense where they seemed real. I would dream, but believe I was awake. At times I would be dreaming I had gotten up hearing my alarm and going through entire days. Then the father and mother would enter my room and begin beating me, or the mother would be trying to kill herself in explicit detail with gaping bloody results in death. Like where she would like slit her throat and her head would fall off and just horrible, like cutting her arms and there was blood just squirting out everywhere. It was crazy. There would also be many times where I would be having a night terror where someone had broken into our old home and I was still living there. The intruders would duct tape or rope me to the chair and make me watch them torture and mutilate my family. Like they'd hold open my eyelids, and one night terror was having to watch them make the father sit on broken glass bottles naked. And I have no idea where I got any of this stuff, why I was dreaming it. Like I'd never seen anything like that before, so I don't know why I would be dreaming this stuff, but it was crazy. It was definitely like a horror movie. The worst horror movie I've ever seen with my family in it. So I would eventually wake up screaming, crying, shaking uncontrollably with the bed soaked in sweat. BH, hearing the screams from across the hall, would run in and wake me. She would sit with me and hold me while I hyperventilated and retraced the night terror in precise detail, adding to each one which reoccurred. I would never go back to sleep. With time, they just became more often and more intense. This just added to cutting more and more and leaving school 2 to 3 times a week for therapy and new orders on psychotropic medications. Yeah, they were, I mean, I still have night terrors at times, especially if I'm in a stressful situation. I mean, well, I haven't had them for a while now, but I was still having them like a couple of years ago. And I just can't be around any type of abusive situations, controlling situations. It just doesn't work for me. And yeah, now at least I'm to the point in my life where I can spot it a lot easier before it ever happens. So, but you know, abusers can see, they have a sense of, they're drawn like magnets. They can tell, you know, who has their guard down or who has been victimized before, because normally the victims are like I was, love me, love me, love me. Just somebody love me. And yeah, until you, which is the point of goddess of radical self-love, until you can offer that love to yourself. Don't go looking outside yourself until you can meet all your own needs that way. You don't need anybody else. You really don't. You have all the love you will ever need right inside of you. You're never alone. You never need another person outside of you to tell you you're beautiful, or that you're special, or that you're everything. That you are the universe. The universe is within inside of you. You are the light. The light is within inside of you. You're everything you could ever want. Right there. It's all you. I really am. So happy I found that. But it has been a lot of work, and it still is at times a lot of work. Every day it's a lot of work to give myself what I need. Because I'm so used to giving it to everyone else. And coming in last or not feeling like I deserve it. But I deserve it, and you deserve it. I don't know where my Kleenex went. I just had it. Oh, it's right here. Batman. Sorry. I'm not sad. I'm happy. Happy tears, happy tears. When spring came around the corner, my mood lightened. BH decided to take, seasonal too. Still has a big effect, seasons. That's why I gotta get out of Minnesota one day. Sorry, Minnesota. Midwest. BH decided to take matters into her own hands by giving me my first vehicle, or getting me my first vehicle, a 87 blue Ford Ranger. Okay, so maybe a lot of kids wouldn't have been thrilled. It definitely wasn't a looker, but I was so grateful. It was blue with a topper. Really, really not cute, but I made it cute. It was 4 months away from my 16th birthday. Now all I could think about was driving my new truck. It was 4-wheel drive and a stick. I had driven a stick before, but that was back in 4th grade. The parents let me drive their cars all the time when my feet could finally touch the pedals. They let me drive sitting on their laps, or us drive sitting on their laps before then, so whatever. Like from the time I can remember, we were driving. I was out of practice, and learning how from BH was not an easy task. She was short-tempered and not very good at giving directions. I wasn't very good at taking direction also, which led to 4 months of intense fighting. I had started at driver's ed with mainly upperclassmen and only a couple kids from my own grade. A lot of the time, my driving partner was a boy whose initials just happened to be the same as the boy from the homecoming dance, JF, which I literally just realized as I'm writing this and never had prior. And I should have said editing this to type it, because I did just realize it the last time, or when I was typing it up a week ago on JF's birthday, the homecoming JF. The driver's ed JF had actually been my boyfriend in 5th and 6th grades. Every time I was around him, I got a burst of energy. There was something so special I saw in him that I didn't see in many people. He was popular, but not a jock, not a brainiac, not labeled. He was just his own special light. He loved just to talk and listen. There was a lot more to him than on the surface, unlike so many others. He wasn't a let's talk about the weather type of person. JF was deep like me. JF was like me, deep, and always interested in going to the next level deep. He wanted to know you, not what everyone thought about you. On the last day of driver's ed, he asked me to be his girlfriend once again. I wanted to say yes right away, but he stopped me with a single fingertip to my lips. He kissed me softly, gave me his new number, and told me to call him when I got back from my trip to South Dakota, which would be 5 days away. Yes, he was such a sweetie. So adorable. I was pretty excited too. I kind of had a feeling that he was gonna, or that we were gonna get back together after we were spending so much time together in the car, especially being older. When he was my boyfriend years before, I was just a baby. I actually had another boyfriend with the same name in a different town at the same time. I had met him while I was babysitting that summer and saved up enough money to fly myself to California and stay with relatives. While I was there, I went to the beach with my cousin and we wrote in the sand, "I love Jay," with a heart around it. My cousin and I took 2 pictures of it and mailed them to both Jays. I know, but we all need to make these types of mistakes to learn from. And hey, I was 12. They both found out eventually. How rude. I mean, honestly, I think they kind of thought it was funny, like when they found out, but still. I think that just the talking on the phone is all we were doing, so wasn't really like that big of a deal, but still. I could see one of my sons doing that now. I can definitely see my youngest son doing that for some reason. The other day, he asked me if I would buy his girlfriend a Kit Kat, a king size Kit Kat. And one week it was one girlfriend, and the next it was a different girlfriend. And I was like, what? Anyway, the entire trip in South Dakota, all I could think of was JF. I couldn't wait to call him and say, yes, 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 I will be your girlfriend. When BH and I got home, I ransacked the house looking for his number. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't find it anywhere. And if anybody remembers when I was a kid, they'll tell you that my room was always a mess. When I moved anyway to BH's house. Hours went by and no number. BH was like, what the hell are you doing? This is why I keep telling you to clean your room. I was still in hot pursuit of JF's number when the phone rang. I ran to it thinking it was JF. However, it was the other JF from the homecoming dance. He asked me if I was sitting down. I was confused. I mean, homecoming JF and I had begun to be close friends since the dance, but I didn't remember giving him my number. I was irritated from the search not showing any results and snapped back, no, why would I care? Why would you care if I was sitting down? He talked slowly, keeping his cool with me, and asked me this time to sit down. He told me he needed to tell me something and wanted to make sure I would be okay. I just told him to say what he had to say already, that I was really busy. Homecoming JF proceeded to tell me that just an hour ago, my JF, had shot himself after a fight with his mother when he was practicing his driving with her. He got out of the driver's seat in the middle of the road, ran all the way home, went to his shotgun, put it to his head, and pulled the trigger. He told me how my JF, had told him how in love he was with me, and he knew JF had just asked me to be his girlfriend. I told him he was a liar, that he was only jealous and making this all up, and slammed down the phone. I fell to the floor, curling up into a ball like an infant, a position that was all too familiar, hysterically crying and gasping for air. There was a knock at the door within an hour. It was homecoming JF. He told BH everything since I couldn't or wouldn't speak. They both sat holding me and cried with me the entire day. JF took me to the state park for some air. We sat on the cliff's edge watching the river and hyperventilating, crying. The crying just wouldn't stop for weeks, and neither would JF taking care of me with daily trips to the river. Little by little, day by day, I started to fall into an ease and into love, real love with homecoming JF. Neither of us let go of JF. I believed he helped us find one another. Our relationship was so much a part of who JF was. Pure, true, no talk of the weather. It was all about who we really were, what our feelings truly were, what life was truly about. That river and water in general has and always will be my serenity. Weeks. Should have said months, because it was months. Even when we went back to school, it was very odd to be there without him. I know it sounds silly to say and a bit narcissistic, but at the time when JF passed away, I believed that if I only had found his number, told him I'd be his girlfriend, he wouldn't have done it. I believed that I could have made him happy enough, or known that someone cared. I cared. I know now the reason that JF and I had so much in common. We both had obviously been through a lot more than most realized or understood, even between us. He just couldn't handle it. I wish I would have just gotten the chance to know who he was, if he would have only told me more, gone deeper. After JF's death, homecoming JF and I were inseparable, even though I was happy. My night terrors continued, intensifying with the loss of our dear friend. The dreams were now so forcefully real, that I just refused to go to sleep anymore. Too scared of what I would see in my eyelids at night, too afraid of who would be hurt next. And now, of course, JF was in them too. I took 20-minute naps here and there, measured so I wouldn't get into a dream mode, but would never get a full night's rest. This went on for a little over 2 months. My therapist was extremely concerned, and eventually, so sleep deprived, I started hallucinating. Our action plan would soon take me to a state of incomprehension and full-blown confusion of reality and suffering, never knowing who to trust or turn to, with a codependent and attachment to users, abusers, narcissists, and psychopaths. And I will say this, I mean, um, the JF that the homecoming JF was not one of those people. He was not a abuser or narcissist or psychopath, that's for sure. He was um, definitely, like I had said, the sweetest boy. Yes, he was pretty young too. Yeah. Um, he was very sweet with me and very understanding, but I was in a lot of pain and there wasn't really much of anything anybody could do for me. It really didn't matter how much anybody else loved me, because at that time I couldn't love myself. I didn't know how. I didn't know. All I kept hearing is like all the horrible things, everything that anybody had ever said, my parents, my friends, strangers. That's all I ever heard is bad things. And, you know, I'm guessing my friend that took his life had similar issues. I guess we'll never know the whole story of why. Um, I know he had some changes in his life recently as well, so yeah, I'm guessing that probably had something to do with it. But so I guess because we are, this is dedicated to him, we're gonna do this in the crown chakra outline of divinity, so that he knows that he will never be forgotten. I will carry him in my heart always, as I know a lot of others will as well. I wish that I would have got a chance to know him as a man and not only as a boy. But if any of you are ever struggling, know that you're not alone, and you can definitely reach out to us at MECA, me, the Goddess of Radical Self-Love. We have lots of different ways to help you overcome the feelings of hopelessness. I've been there more times than I can count. I would say more than half of the years that I have been on this planet. And if I can do it, anybody can. I promise. And until you learn full self-love, we're here to love you. I'm here to love you. Sending all my love to you now. You have no need to feel guilt or shame, or self-doubt, or hopelessness. Everything is within you. All the love and hope, divinity, the universe is right inside of you. Thank you so much for sharing this time. MECA, whichever you have decided for yourselves, and Jaya and all of our friends and families who didn't survive. Love you. Have a good night, guys. Always hope, always love, always light.